On July 7th, 1965, 2-7 Marines departed from Okinawa and had arrived at Quinong, Republic of Vietnam. During this time, the 2-7 had engaged in sustained combat operations for the entire 5 years of their combat deployment. They would play a very important role in Operation Utah and Operation Harvest Moon. The United States and the Republic of Vietnam 2nd Division had received intelligence that the People's Army of Vietnam's 21st Regiment had moved into the northwest area of Quang Ngai. The plan was that the ARVN 1st Airborne Battalion to secure a landing zone at Chu Ni, which is 15 kilometers northwest of Quang Ngai, and the 2nd Battalion 7th Marines would then deploy into the landing zone, and then both battalions would move southeast along Route 527, with the ARVN patrolling north and Marines patrolling the southern route. On the morning of March 4th, Marine A4s and F4s in the United States Air Force B-57s carried out airstrikes on the landing zone before the helicopter landings commenced at 0900. However, the incoming helicopters of Marine Aircraft Group 36 were met with intense anti-aircraft fire, and one UH-1E gunship or VMO-6 and one F-4 from VMFA 531 were shot down. Despite the persistent anti-aircraft fire, by 10:30, the ARVN Airborne deployed to the landing zone and encountered little resistance on the ground. The landing of the Marines, which commenced approximately at 10:40, was met again with heavy anti-aircraft fire and one UH-34 shot down. By 100, the entire battalion had been landed. During the excursion in the landing zone, they encountered strong opposition around the Chu Ni Hill 50, and by 1:30, they had called for support from the Marines, who turned and moved to support the ARVN. As the Marines advanced on Hill 50, they came under intense fire from an estimated force of 2 PAVN battalions. The lines were so close that the Marines were unable to call in an air or artillery support. A gap developed between the Marines' left flank and the ARVN. As the ARVN refused to move forward, and PAVN exploited this gap, cutting off 2 platoons of Company F for several hours until supported by Company H. On March 4th, as darkness began to set, the Marines were able to withdraw under the cover of air and artillery strikes to night defensive positions. The People's Army probed the Marine positions at night, and helicopter resupply missions were met with anti-aircraft fire. The Marines launched a night assault on an anti-aircraft position, killing at least 20 People's Army, and continued air support and artillery fire was directed against them as well. Realizing that PAVN planned to stand and fight, Commanding General of Task Force Delta, Brigadier Lat, ordered the deployment of 3rd Battalion 1st Marines north of the 2nd 7 Marines, and their deployment was completed by 6. In addition to the next morning, to the 2nd Battalion 4th Marines was to be inserted 2.5 kilometers south of the 2-7 Marines. Look of Vietnam's army and would establish blocking positions to the east, and the 5th Airborne Battalion would be landed in the original landing zone. March 5th, at 0500, the People's Army launched an attack on the Republic of Vietnam Army in the first-born position near Hill 50. The Marine artillery responded with more than 1,900 rounds on the perimeter over 2 hours. At 7:30, 31 Marines were ordered to move south to support the Republic's army. And as the 31 Marines approached the Republic Vietnamese Army's position at 10:30, they came under heavy fire and entrenched People's Army forces on or around Hill 50. After more than 3 hours of fighting, the Company L of 31 Marines and the Republic Vietnamese Army's 1st Airborne captured Hill 50. Company M31 Marines and People's Army continued to battle, but they were unable to hold off until nightfall. At 11, Company B from the 1st Battalion 7th Marines, which had been moved into blocking positions northeast of the battle area, was hit by intense People's Army fire from mortar and small arms. Running short of ammo, the Marines called for an emergency resupply mission, and despite heavy anti-aircraft fire, 2 helicopters succeeded in dropping munitions to the Marine. At 13:30, the People's Army attacked the Marine perimeter, but were forced back by the small arms and artillery fire. March 6th. On the morning of the 6th of March, Marines and the Republic Vietnamese Army withdrew with minimal opposition from their night positions to allow for an air and artillery bombardment of the People's Army's positions. Bombings lasted for over 2 hours. When the bombing concluded, the Marines and the Republican Vietnamese Army advanced, but it became clear that most of the People's Army had slipped away the previous night. The Marines had found more than 100 People's Army's bodies on Hill 50 and an extensive tunnel bunker and complex systems inside the hill which had served as their regimental command post.